All right, keep it down. I'm filming.
Fast shooter made, so you back. I'm a savage. Yeah. Classy, bougie, ratchet. Yeah. Sassy, moody, nasty. Yeah. Hacking, stupid. What's happening? Bitch, what was happening? Bitch, I'm a savage.
Hey guys, it's your girl Ayanna, and welcome back to my kitchen and another episode of Murder Meals. I'm not going to do too much talking today. I'm just going to go ahead and get right to it. But as always, if you haven't already done so, make sure you go ahead and subscribe to my channel, like my videos, and share. And you can also catch up on all my previous episodes by watching my playlist of murder meals. So for today's video, we're gonna be making lunch for the kids. I've actually been trying to do this recipe for a while. Shout out to my girl, Jess, who has been saying for years that when you make chili cheese hot dogs, you need to make your chili from scratch. So we're gonna go ahead and do that today. And we're gonna be having that with some chips, you know, boom, bam, boom. And I'm also gonna be making some refreshing strawberry lemonade. So let's go ahead and get to it. So today's video is gonna be about the unfortunate murder of Rebecca Wight. Rebecca Wight was born October 17th, 1959. She was described to be a fun, loving, outgoing person. She loved the outdoors and just exploring nature. She was a student at Virginia Tech, working towards her degree in business administration. Shout out to her because it is hard. Trust me, I know. I've started and stopped about 3 times. During her time at Virginia Tech is where she met fellow student Claudia Brenner. Claudia was an architect student, and they had met each other while they were at a coffee store, shop. Now, Claudia was an openly gay woman, and instantly she had an attraction to Rebecca. I know it's a little ghetto, but you gotta do what you gotta do. Once again, the Yeti cup has come in handy. But there was a problem with that. Rebecca was in a relationship with a man, but it was the ending stages of said relationship. You know how that goes when you about to go ahead and make your exit, but you know you're still a little bit emotionally detached. But she was still staying with said boyfriend. So Rebecca and Claudia just were friends for over the next year. Now, they did start to soon realize that they both did have feelings for one another. Now, at some point in the, I don't want to call it relationship, but relationship, Claudia had went to Israel. And while she was there, Rebecca had gotten a boyfriend, and she was really hurt by this fact. She was just, but nonetheless, once she returned, the girls at that point did enter into an actual relationship, and they did start to date for the next 2 years. Now, by this time, the relationship was long distance. It wasn't a lot of information about this case, so what I'm assuming, due to the bit of an age difference that they had, is that Claudia had graduated college, and due to that, Rebecca was still in college. They would just have a long distance relationship. Now, I ain't never used one of these, so let's see if I'm even doing this correctly. Oh my gosh. I am impressed. Now, anyone who's been in a long distance relationship knows that anytime that you get with your spouse, that you have to definitely take those opportunities. So for them, the weekends that they were able to meet up were very important to them, and they took those very seriously. So during the weekend that the events of this case happened, the girls had decided to go ahead and meet up. Rebecca had chosen a location that was kind of like mutual grounds for the both of them. You know how it be when you want to spend all your gas money, you want to spend all your gas money, so let's go ahead and pick a point in the middle and meet there. That's what that was. Rebecca loved the outdoors. She loved nature. She just felt very safe and secure there, and she always loved hiking, and the Appalachian Trails was one of the spots that she always was a big fan of. So that's what she chose to meet up. Oddly enough, both of the girls had car issues when they were driving down there. Claudia's car kept overheating, and she had to keep pulling over to on the side of the road and just like running. I think she said her heat, I don't know. I just be on the side of the road crying when that happens to me. And Rebecca's car just at one point didn't even want to start up, but they were happy and relieved when they both were able to make it to the campsite. They parked in a lot called Deadly Women Hollow, and they started on their way down the trail. After the girls made their way, they went ahead and set up their camp and camped out. Claudia at a later time described the campgrounds as something like where Boy Scouts would do their camping. Don't know what that really means. My son didn't finish Boy Scouts due to outdoor camping. So the girls did think that they were alone, and they went ahead and went about their night and stayed at that campsite overnight. Next morning, knowing that they were in a remote spot, the girls thought that they were alone, but they soon found out that they were not. Rebecca had walked over to a public restroom naked with nothing on but her boots. That's when she ran into the strange man named Stephen Roy Carr. Now, Carr was a wanderer known by most locals in the area. He frequently lived in the woods, camping out and taking residence in caves. Apparently, he's been doing that for years, and a lot of people around that knew him in that area said that he was a very friendly, kind person. Rebecca was taken off guard when Carr revealed himself. At that point, he asked her if she had a cigarette, and she politely informed him that she didn't have one due to she didn't smoke. She then at that point headed back to her campsite and woke Claudia up and just informed her like, hey, we're not alone, there's someone here. Once the girls realized that they weren't there alone, they went ahead and packed up their site and decided to move to a location that was more secluded and remote, to where they can have a little bit more privacy on their own to enjoy their weekend together. Now, as they were leaving, Carr just sat back and watched them and said, "See you later." The girls at this point, they just kind of looked at him and nodded like, you know when you know that you ain't gonna see someone again, but you hit them with that. They gave him one of those, and they just took off about their way. They didn't pay him any mind, and they didn't have any weird feelings about him at this point. They just kind of thought that they were alone and found that it was weird that he was there. And Rebecca, for the most part, just kind of felt embarrassed that she was naked in front of him. So on their trail, what do you call it? I'm about to call it Oregon Trail. So as they set off on the trail to find a new location to go ahead and camp out, the girls just did a lot of conversating. Claudia states that they just had a great time. They were being very playful with one another, making making jokes and laughing, and giving each other the occasional kiss here and there, just basically enjoying their time with their babe. They had stopped and pulled out the map. Now, while they were both looking at the map, they heard a voice say, "Lost already?" They looked up, and again, it was Carr. Claudia stated that they instantly felt uneasy just due to the simple fact that they had clearly left their old campsite with him still there, and they had left with well enough time to put a lot of distance between the two. And then all of a sudden they were running into him again, which means he had to have come in the same direction that they had came after they had left off in that direction. At this time, they also noticed that Carr had a .22 caliber rifle with him as well, and that instantly put them on edge. The girls looked at him and said, "No, they're not lost," and then they pushed off. Now, once the girls finally found a location that they wanted to stay at, This time they said, nah, we ain't having it again. And they actually checked to make sure that they were alone, and they were. So they went ahead and set up camp, and they made themselves dinner and went about their night. So at around 5:30 p.m., the girls started playing around, wrestling and kissing, you know, in a sexual manner. You know how it be when you with your bae on a little vacation, honey. Don't act like you don't know, and if you don't know, you need to know, or you don't. Claudia states that she was just laying there and she was kissing Rebecca when all of a sudden she heard what sounded like to be a big crack explosion noise. Claudia says that whenever she heard that explosion, she instantly seen red coming down her arm, and she thought it was some type of like natural disaster going on. She instantly thought of an earthquake, but then she kind of remembered thinking, but earthquakes don't make the ground bleed and it doesn't cause blood. I'm assuming she was in some type of shock, which, I mean, who wouldn't? When all of a sudden she heard the sound again, and that's when Rebecca kind of instantly realized what was going on and that someone was shooting at them. She states that Rebecca kind of said, oh my gosh, he's back, because 2 and 2, you just seen this creeper in the woods, and all of a sudden you're hearing gunshots and your girlfriend is shot. So when they came to this new location and set up their campground, they did check the area, but little did they know Carr was not far behind, and he was said to be less than 50 to 80 feet from the girls' location, and was just aiming at them with their rifle like they were just animals to be hunted. Now in these moments, Claudia has said herself that everything was so hectic and she could not think clearly, and she contributes everything that happened as far as her getting out of there to Rebecca. She states that Rebecca told her to get down on the ground, but when she got down on the ground, she was hit again. So then Rebecca screamed at her to run to a nearby tree. So that's what she did. So Claudia was able to, at that point, run to the nearby tree, and then Rebecca followed. Now on her way, Claudia was not hit again. However, Rebecca was not so lucky. Rebecca had got shot 2 times. It was once in the back of the neck and another time in her actual back. But Rebecca was still able to make it to the tree. And at this point, Claudia was completely freaking out, which, baby, who wouldn't in this situation? She just remembers panicking and saying, what do we do? What do we do? Oh my gosh, I can't believe this is happening. And just, you know, freaking out, just thinking that they were going to die and he was going to come back to try to finish them off. And she just was just panicking. And Rebecca stayed calm and said, we have to stop the bleeding. Apparently, she did not realize, due to adrenaline, that she had been hit in the neck and she was bleeding profusely at this time. Claudia said that at this time she just ran back to the path, which was back at the campsite. She said at this point she wasn't even thinking clearly to think that she was in any danger to get shot again. She just knew that she needed to get back to the pack in order to get the towels, in order to do what Rebecca said and stop the bleeding. So after she got back, she did go ahead and wrap the towel around her neck, and she just said that, you know, we have to get out of here. Now at this point, the gunshots had stopped, so the girls knew that they needed to get out of there so they can go ahead and get some help. So Claudia had grabbed her and Rebecca's shoes. She put on her shoes and then put Rebecca's shoes down next to her. That's when she realized that Rebecca was kind of just like going like this. Well, not like this with her eyes closed, but she was just, you know, doing that motion when you're trying to find something when you can't see. And she realized that Rebecca couldn't see, she was losing her sight. Claudia at this point attempted to carry Rebecca, but due to both of their injuries, she just was unable to. She states that she had that dreadful realization that she knew that she was going to have to leave Rebecca there in order to go get both of them help. She at that point went and got the sleeping bag and put it on top of Rebecca because she was fearful that she was going to get cold, because at this point it was almost nightfall and she knew that due to them being so deep in the woods, it was going to be a long trek for her to actually get some help. She went ahead and set off down the path. She states that she was so terrified. She at a few times stopped because she actually saw a car and she wasn't sure if he was going to try to come back for her. Now, unbeknownst to the ladies, Carr had actually thought that both of the girls were dead and he had left to seek refuge in some of these surrounding communities. Claudia states that she's seen a few homes that she wanted to go ahead and try to break into or knock for help, you know, but she was afraid. She didn't know if maybe one of these homes belonged to the man that just attacked her and her girlfriend, so she had to keep pushing. She started to hear traffic and knew that she was close to the road. Once she got to the road, she tried to flag down a vehicle and they just kept going. They did not care that this girl was bloodied up, looking beat down. They said no hitchhikers and they kept going, which, not to be funny, I could definitely understand. She states that then she saw another car approaching and this time she wasn't going to allow it to pass her up. She went ahead and stood in the middle of the road and started swinging her flashlight in the air to catch their attention. At that point, two young boys, I believe they were teenagers, stopped the car and she screamed that she needed help, that she had been attacked. The boys then at that point reversed the car around and she yelled like, "Where are you going?" And they were like, "Well, we're just turning the car around so you can get in." One of the boys, so sweet, actually got out of the front seat so she can go ahead and get in the front seat, and they took her to the nearest police department in order to get help. So Claudia was able to go ahead and give police all the information that they needed and the location where Rebecca was at so she can go ahead and get rescued and get some help. Now, Claudia did not realize the extent of her wounds and didn't realize that she was going to have to actually go in the hospital in order to get some repairs done. Now, she did tell hospital staff and detectives that she did not want to know anything in regards to Rebecca until after her surgery, just because she didn't want to have any of that on her. At this time, Claudia's close friends and family had been informed of what was happening, what had happened, and they were on their way to her. And unfortunately, by time police and paramedic and rescue members were able to get to Rebecca, she had succumbed to her injuries. One of Claudia's closest friends, who coincidentally was an ex of hers as well, was the unfortunate one to have to relay that news to her whenever Claudia had woken up from her surgery. Claudia was able to work with FBI to give a composite sketch of the assailant, and for the next 10 days they would go on a manhunt that they stated had never happened to this degree in previous history, and I believe since then. Now, Carr, being familiar with the area, he was able to hide out and elude police, for the next 10 days by hiding in the local Mennonite community. In the Mennonite community, they didn't do all of the technology, so they didn't read the newspaper or watch television. So he was able to elude police for quite some time before one of the members, you always got that one that don't quite do right. But I guess in this instance, it worked out. Because this one used to, I guess, go off on the side and sneak watch the TV. Where he found said TV at, I don't know. But either way, he ended up seeing the reports about Carr and realized what he had done and immediately reported his tale to the police, and they came and got that bad boy. Now, Carr, having a history with police, was arrested. They were able to hold him on grand larceny warrants from Florida. Apparently, he previously had run-ins with the police due to burglary and grand theft auto in the past. Carr did waive his right to a trial. In exchange, that the prosecutors agreed that they will not seek out the death penalty due to his little stinking crimes. Carr had a public defender, and the public defender claimed that whenever he saw the two girls exchanging, you know, in sexual behavior, kisses and whatnot, that he was enraged, and he tried to use the dumbest, in my opinion, the most ludicrous defense ever, which is called the gay panic defense, basically stating that whenever you see two gay, lesbian, or whoever interacting, that you get so enraged that you snap, and that causes you to commit whatever crime that you're being charged of. Carr stated that the women having sex was basically taunting him because they were doing it in front of him. But it's like, sir, they didn't even know that you were there. You were just being a freaking creep watching them. He stated that he had been raped in a Florida prison, and also he had been sexually assaulted as a child. And whenever he saw the women together, it kind of put him in a PTSD moment, and it enraged him and caused him to attack them. However, the judge was not trying to hear any of that. He deemed that all of that was irrelevant, so he did not allow that in court. But he did also prevent the girls' relationship status to be entered into evidence and used as a basis as well in court. So therefore, prosecutors were forced to cut a plea with Carr. So at that point, prosecutors cut a deal, and Carr was sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole, as he should have been. Now, as they all do, Carr did try to appeal this decision. Obviously, it was denied. He tried to appeal it on the basis of stating that the court didn't allow him to enter into evidence his traumatic background in sexual abuse as a child and in prison. But again, they said no, so he's still in prison. Now, Claudia, at this point, although she did not want to, she did start engaging in activism work, just feeling like due to her experience that she went through and the traumatic effect that it had, that she had a voice and a point of view that she could use. She has done a few interviews speaking about her experience, and she also did write a book. Carr is still currently serving out his sentence. Just to be honest, I did not look, because people like that, I really don't care. He could just kind of rot wherever he's at. But that is all that I have for today's case. How did you like my story today? What did you think? What were your thoughts? Definitely go ahead and leave your comments below. And again, don't forget to like and share my video. And until next time, bye.
Me and my mom got the same hair. You and my mom got the same hair.